My name's Jessica Parker, and I've spent most of my life feeling like I didn't belong. Growing up in Columbus, Ohio, in a cramped house on the edge of the city, I was the kid my parents never wanted. My mom was barely out of high school when she got pregnant with me, caught up in a whirlwind romance with a guy who couldn't keep his promises. My dad, well, he never let me forget I was the reason his life went off the rails. "There goes my freedom," he'd mutter every time he passed me in the hallway, his eyes cold like I was some kind of debt he couldn't pay off. Mom wasn't much warmer. She was too busy trying to keep the peace, cooking and cleaning like her life depended on it. It wasn't always just the three of us. My grandparents on both sides got wind of Mom's pregnancy and stepped in, insisting she keep me. Back then, folks didn't raise kids alone, so Mom and Dad got married and I came along kicking and screaming. For 12 years, it was just us in that little house, the air thick with tension. I learned early to tiptoe around Dad's temper, keeping my head down, scrubbing dishes, mopping floors, anything to avoid his glare. But no matter how quiet I was, I couldn't escape the feeling I was a mistake. Then my sister, Shelby, was born. She was their miracle, the child they actually wanted. From the moment she arrived, everything shifted. Suddenly, it was Jessica, watch your sister, or Jessica, hush, Shelby's sleeping. Shelby got the new clothes, the shiny toys, the hugs I only saw from a distance. Me? I got hand-me-downs and a list of chores longer than my arm. By the time I was 10, I was cleaning toilets, dusting shelves, and folding laundry while Mom beamed at Shelby's every coup. "Why can't you be more like Shelby?" they'd say, like I was a shadow that didn't quite measure up. The only place I felt alive was the kitchen. It started with my grandmother, who'd sneak me into her tiny apartment on weekends. She'd pull out her old recipe cards, stained with grease and love, and teach me how to make cornbread or peach cobbler. "You've got a gift, Jessie," she'd say, her hands guiding mine as we kneaded dough. After she passed, cooking became my way of holding on to her. In our house, it was my escape. Something about mixing spices, tasting sauces, and watching a dish come together felt like magic. I'd lose myself in it, forgetting the weight of Dad's disappointment or Mom's indifference. One evening, I mustered up the courage to make my grandmother's special sweet potato pie for a family barbecue. My aunt took one bite and gasped, "This is incredible. When did you learn to cook like this?" Mom just smiled, soaking up the praise like she'd spent hours in the kitchen. I stood in the corner, wiping flour off my hands, and mumbled, "Actually, I made it." They laughed, like I'd told a joke. "Jessica likes to help out," Mom said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Isn't that right, honey?" I bit my lip, knowing no one would believe me. I was invisible, as always. By high school, the kitchen was my sanctuary. While Shelby got new dresses and all the attention, I perfected my fried chicken recipe, the one that made even Dad grunt, "Not bad," as he shoveled it down. Coming from him, that was like a standing ovation. But cooking wasn't just about feeding them. It was about dreaming bigger. Every night, I'd lie in my creaky bed, picturing my own soul food restaurant, packed with people smiling over plates of my food. One night at dinner, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "I want to open a restaurant someday," I blurted out. The table went quiet. Shelby smirked, her fork hovering over her plate. "You? A restaurant?" Mom's face twisted with worry, like I'd said I wanted to fly to Mars. Dad didn't even look up from his food. "Restaurants fail all the time," he said. "You'd be broke in a month." I tried to argue. "I'm good at cooking, people love my food." But Dad just scoffed. "They love free food. Doesn't mean they'd pay for it." Shelby chimed in, her voice sugary but sharp. "Maybe you could work at a diner, Jess. I hear they're always hiring." My cheeks burned, but I swallowed the hurt, promising myself I'd prove them wrong. When it came time for college, I had my heart set on a culinary school in Chicago, one of the best in the Midwest. To my shock, Dad agreed to pay for it, but not out of kindness. "This is your inheritance," he said, his voice gruff. "Don't expect anything else. The house, the savings, that's all for Shelby." I should have been hurt, but I was too thrilled to care. Culinary school was my ticket out, my chance to learn from real chefs and turn my passion into something real. I packed my bags and left Columbus behind, ready to chase my dream. Chicago was like stepping into a new world. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. My classmates loved my dishes, my cornbread muffins got snatched up during critiques, and my instructors praised my knack for blending flavors. I'd stay up late experimenting with recipes, tweaking my grandmother's gumbo until it was perfect. Those years were a blur of chopping, sautéing, and baking, and I soaked up every second. I wasn't just Jessica, the family's mistake. I was Jessica, the chef with a future. But dreams don't pay rent. After graduation, with no savings to my name, I had to move back home to Columbus. The contrast hit me like a brick wall. In Chicago, I'd been surrounded by people who saw my potential. Back home, I was just the help again. The first night back, Shelby smirked over dinner. "So, you're a fancy chef now? Does that mean you'll cook for us all the time?" Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. "That's a great idea, Jessica. You can cook, and Shelby can focus on her studies." Just like that, my culinary degree was reduced to a meal ticket, gathering dust on my shelf. I landed a job as an assistant chef at a local soul food joint, a small place called Mama's Kitchen. The pay was barely enough to cover gas, but it was a start. I'd come home exhausted, my hands smelling of onions and thyme, only to find a sink full of dishes and a pile of laundry waiting. "This is your rent," Mom would say, handing me a list of chores. "You're not a kid anymore." I bit my tongue, knowing arguing was pointless. Every free moment, I was sketching out menus for my dream restaurant, planning every detail in my head. I wasn't going to let their coldness stop me. While I scraped by, Shelby's life was a parade of gifts. The day she started high school, Dad came home grinning like he'd won the lottery himself. "Shelby, come outside," he called. There, in the driveway, was a shiny red SUV, a bow on the hood. "I don't even know how to drive yet." Shelby squealed, her eyes wide. Dad tossed her the keys. "You'll learn, sweetheart. My girl deserves the best." I stood there, my jaw tight, remembering the rusty bike I got at 17 because I needed it for my part-time job. It didn't stop there. Shelby got the latest iPhone, a sleek laptop, designer jeans, even a bedroom makeover that turned her room into something out of a magazine. My room? Same peeling wallpaper, same squeaky bed I'd had since I was 12. The spiders were my only roommates. I started dreaming of moving out, maybe finding a roommate to split rent on a tiny apartment. Anything would be better than this constant reminder that I was less than Shelby. Then Christmas rolled around, and I decided to do something different. I'd been saving up from my job, determined to get everyone nice gifts for once, to show them I wasn't the failure they thought. I bought lottery tickets, not the cheap ones, but tickets for the big Ohio jackpot. On Christmas morning, I handed out the envelopes, trying not to look too hopeful. Mom opened hers and frowned. "Lottery tickets?" Dad snorted. "What, you shop at a gas station now?" Shelby didn't even open hers, just rolled her eyes. "Real thoughtful, Jess." Mom's voice turned icy. "Since Jessica didn't really get us anything, she won't expect gifts either, right?" The words stung like a slap. I grabbed the tickets back, my hands shaking. "You know what? I'll keep them. Merry Christmas." I stormed out, ignoring their stunned faces. Who needed their holiday dinner anyway? I texted Vera, my coworker from Mama's Kitchen. "You at the restaurant? Mind some company." An hour later, I was at the closed restaurant, sipping cheap wine with Vera, laughing about our messed up families. It wasn't the Christmas I'd pictured, but it felt more like home than my actual house ever did. A few days after Christmas, I was on a break at Mama's Kitchen, wiping down counters when my phone buzzed with a missed call from an unknown number. I figured it was a scam and ignored it, but when it rang again, curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, is this Jessica Parker?" a chipper voice asked. I frowned. "Yeah, who's this?" The woman introduced herself as Lisa from the Ohio Lottery Commission. "You're holding a winning ticket," she said. "One of your Christmas tickets matched all the numbers. After taxes, your winnings are $900,000. My knees buckled. I gripped the counter, the world spinning. You're serious? I stammered. She laughed. Dead serious. Congratulations. My mind raced. $900,000. This was it, my chance to open my soul food restaurant, to show everyone what I could do. I could almost smell the cornbread baking in my own kitchen. I rushed home, bursting through the door, too excited to keep it in. You won't believe this, I shouted. Mom, Dad, and Shelby were at the kitchen table, staring at me like I'd lost it. I won the lottery. One of the tickets I got for Christmas. It won $900,000. For a second, no one spoke. Then Shelby's voice cut through, sharp and shrill. That money's ours. You bought those tickets for Mom and Dad. My stomach dropped. No, I said, my voice shaking but firm. You gave them back. They're mine. Mom and Dad exchanged a look, and Dad leaned forward, his tone slow and heavy. Jessica, be reasonable. You live under our roof. You owe us. Hand over the ticket and we'll handle it. My hand went to my pocket, where the ticket was tucked safe. No, I said, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. This is my win. I'm using it to open my restaurant. Dad's face turned red, veins bulging. Now you listen here. No, you listen, I shouted, years of hurt pouring out. I've spent my whole life being treated like I'm nothing in this family. Not anymore. This is my chance, and I'm taking it. Mom's voice was ice cold. If that's how you feel, get out. Now. I looked at them, these people who were supposed to love me, and saw them for what they were. Fine, I whispered. I'm gone. I stormed upstairs, threw clothes and a few keepsakes into a bag, my grandmother's recipe cards, my chef's knife, a photo of us baking together, and walked out. They watched me go, probably thinking I'd come crawling back. They were wrong. My first stop was the lottery office to claim my winnings. The check felt unreal in my hands, like it might vanish if I blinked. Next, I found a real estate agent. I need an apartment, I told her. Something available now. By that evening, I was in a small one-bedroom in a quiet Columbus neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, no furniture yet, just a mattress on the floor, but it was mine. I sat there, eating takeout, flipping through restaurant equipment catalogs on my phone, and felt something I hadn't in years. Hope. The next weeks were a whirlwind. I threw myself into planning my restaurant, staying up late with my laptop, researching suppliers, crunching numbers, drafting menus. Every detail had to be perfect. I drove around Columbus, hunting for the right spot, until I found it, a rundown storefront in the short north, vacant for years, with grimy windows and a flickering for lease sign. The landlord raised an eyebrow when I said I wanted to turn it into a soul food restaurant. Good luck, kid, he said, tossing me the keys with a smirk. I didn't care. This was my shot. Renovating that place was brutal. I hired contractors, picked out every tile and light fixture, and scrubbed every corner myself. My hands were raw, my back ached, but every nail I hammered felt like a step toward my dream. Opening day came faster than I expected. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the staff I'd hired and trained. When the first order came in, a plate of fried catfish and collard greens, my heart raced. Let's do this, I said, tying on my apron. That night, watching customers smile over my food, I knew I'd made the right choice. Those first few months at my restaurant, Parker's Soul Kitchen, were a blur of adrenaline and exhaustion. I worked 20-hour days, cooking, managing, even bussing tables when we were short-staffed. Every plate that left my kitchen had to be perfect. My grandmother's recipes deserved nothing less. Slowly, word spread around Columbus. People came for the fried chicken, stayed for the peach cobbler, and left with smiles that made my heart swell. I started a loyalty program, offering discounts to regulars and sneak peeks at new dishes, like my smoked brisket mac and cheese. It was a hit, and soon I had a crew of regulars who felt like family, sharing stories over plates of cornbread. I didn't stop there. I partnered with local couriers to launch a delivery service, making sure every to-go order was just as fresh as the dine-in plates. It was a gamble, Keeping the quality high wasn't easy, but it paid off. Social media became my secret weapon. I posted videos of me in the kitchen, sharing tips on making the perfect roux, or teasing new specials like shrimp and grits. Customers started commenting, sharing, tagging their friends. My follower count climbed, and so did my reservations. 3 years in, Parker's Soul Kitchen was turning a profit. Not a fortune, but enough to make me believe I could do more. Opening a second location was terrifying. I knew the ropes this time, but managing 2 places meant trusting others to carry my vision. I leaned on Marcus, my head chef, and Giselle, my assistant manager, who'd been with me from the start. They kept things running smoothly while I scouted a new spot in German Village, another Columbus neighborhood with charm and foot traffic. The second restaurant was a success, and 4 years later, I opened a third in Dublin, a suburb with a growing food scene. Before I knew it, I was Jessica Parker, owner of a small but thriving soul food chain, the girl who was never supposed to be anything. It wasn't all smooth sailing. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd bitten off too much. Supply chain issues, staffing shortages, and the constant pressure to keep customers happy weighed heavy. But every time I walked into one of my restaurants, saw my staff laughing, smelled the gumbo simmering, I knew it was worth it. My team, Marcus with his no-nonsense advice, Giselle with her quiet strength, became my real family. They believed in me, and that meant everything. One Saturday, I was in my office at the Short North location, going over budgets for the Dublin restaurant, when my phone rang. The number stopped me cold. It was my parents' house. I hadn't spoken to them since the day I walked out. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. "Jessica, it's Mom." Her voice was shaky, not like her usual cold tone. "We need your help. It's about Shelby."
Of course it was about Shelby. It was always about Shelby.
"What about her?" I asked, keeping my guard up. Dad's voice came on, gruff as ever. "She's in trouble, Jessica. She lost her job. They're saying she stole from the company. No one will hire her. We thought maybe you could give her a job at one of your restaurants." I almost laughed. After everything, after they kicked me out for keeping what was mine, they had the nerve to ask for a favor? But then I thought of Shelby, my little sister, despite all the hurt. Maybe this was a chance to fix something. "Let me talk to her," I said. Shelby came on, her voice small, almost scared. "Jessica, I'm sorry. I really need help." I took a deep breath, weighing my options. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll give you a job, but no special treatment. You mess up, you're out." "Got it." She agreed, her relief palpable through the phone. The next morning, Shelby showed up at the Short North restaurant, nervous but eager. I started her on basic tasks, filing invoices, scheduling deliveries. To my surprise, she threw herself into it, asking questions, taking notes. For the first time, I wondered if we could actually be sisters, not just rivals. Then one night, as we were closing up, Shelby broke down. "I need to tell you the truth," she sobbed. "I didn't steal from my last job. My boss, he came on to me. When I turned him down, he fired me and spread lies that I was a thief." Anger surged through me, not at her, but at the man who'd hurt her. "I believe you," I said, pulling her into a hug. "We'll figure this out together." I promised to teach her everything I knew about running the restaurant, hoping this could be her fresh start. But deep down, a tiny voice warned me to stay cautious. I'd been burned before. At first, Shelby was a model employee. She showed up early, stayed late, and tackled every task with a fire I'd never seen in her before. She'd volunteer to reorganize the inventory or cover a shift when someone called out. I started to think maybe I'd misjudged her, that the spoiled kid I grew up with was finally growing up. I taught her how to manage orders, balance the books, even how to plate a dish so it looked as good as it tasted. Watching her handle a busy lunch rush with confidence, I felt a flicker of pride. Maybe we could rebuild something after all. But then the whispers started. I brushed them off at first. Restaurants are gossip mills, and I'd heard my share of chatter. But the rumors got louder, and one afternoon, Marcus, my head chef, pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Jessica, we need to talk," he said, his face serious. "Your sister's been saying things." Stirring up trouble. My stomach twisted. What kind of things? He hesitated, then spilled it. She's telling the staff you're underpaying them, keeping all the profits for yourself. She even suggested they go on strike. I felt like I'd been punched. That's insane, I said. You know our margins are tight. I've always been open about the books. Marcus nodded. We know, boss. None of us believe her. But there's more. She's been saying the restaurant should be hers, that you cheated her out of the family money. My blood ran cold. After everything, giving her a job, a second chance, this was how she repaid me? That evening, I called Shelby into my office, my hands shaking with anger. What the hell are you doing? I demanded, laying out everything Marcus had told me. Shelby's face was blank, her voice calm. Oh, that? I was just testing the staff's loyalty, Jess. Making sure they wouldn't turn on you. Looks like they passed. She smiled, but there was something cold in her eyes, a glint that made my skin crawl. I wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at me. Before I could press her, Giselle, my assistant manager, burst in, her face pale. Jessica, we've got a problem. There's a $10,000 shortage in the cash register. We spent hours poring over the books, double-checking every transaction. The money was gone, no mistake. Only 3 people had access to the register. Marcus, Giselle, and Shelby. I trusted Marcus and Giselle with my life. They'd been with me through every late night and every crisis. But Shelby? That little voice in my head was screaming now. She came up to me later, her voice low. I've noticed Giselle staying late a lot. And she did just buy that new car. I stared at her, my heart sinking. Was she really trying to pin this on Giselle? I couldn't ignore it. Too much was at stake, my business, my reputation, the livelihoods of my team. Late one night, after everyone left, I installed hidden cameras around the registers. It felt like a betrayal, spying on my own staff, but I had no choice. For days, I watched hours of footage, my eyes burning from the screen. Then, on the 5th night, I saw it. Shelby, quick and sneaky, opening the register, her hands slipping cash into her pockets. My heart broke, not just for the money, but for the sister I'd hoped she could be. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Instead, I called the police. The next day, as Shelby was finishing her shift, 3 officers walked in. Her face went from shock to rage in seconds. She thrashed, knocking over a table, sending plates crashing. I deserve this money, she screamed. I should be rich, not you. You stole my life. As they dragged her out, I felt empty, like the last piece of my old family had crumbled to dust. The next day, my parents stormed into the restaurant. Mom was sobbing, Dad's face red with fury. How dare you, he roared. Your own sister. Drop the charges. I stood my ground, pulling out my phone to show them the footage. This is what Shelby did. She's a thief. They watched, their faces paling, but instead of understanding, Mom's eyes hardened. You set her up, she hissed. You've always been jealous of her. I laughed, bitter and tired. Jealous? You gave me nothing and expected me to be grateful. I'm done. I pointed to the door. Get out of my restaurant. Get out of my life. The trial was brutal. Shelby played the victim, tears streaming as she spun lies about me. But then her former boss took the stand. He told the court how Shelby had chased him, threatened to accuse him of harassment when he rejected her, then stole from the company in revenge. The jury saw through her act. They found her guilty, and as they led her away, she shot me a look of pure hatred. I haven't spoken to my family since. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I could have done things differently. But then I walk into Parker's Soul Kitchen, see my staff bustling, smell the collard greens simmering, and I know I made the right choice. This is my home now, these people my family. Nobody, not Shelby, not my parents, can take that from me. To everyone who's followed my journey, thank you. You've been with me through the hurt, the fight, and the triumph. If my story hit you in the heart, hit that subscribe button and join us. Every plate we serve carries a piece of my soul, stories of struggle, love, and new beginnings. Keep cooking your own truth, and I'll see you at the table.